The sun was low on the horizon, casting soft orange light over the colony settlement. Small buildings made of metal and glass glimmered in the fading sunlight. The colony was quiet, except for the distant sound of children playing and machines humming. 8-year-old Liam ran along the dirt path, his small boots kicking up dust with every step. His dark hair shone in the sunlight, and his bright eyes were full of curiosity. Today he wanted adventure. Today he would go farther than he had ever gone before. The forest at the edge of the colony had always been a place of mystery. Humans were told to stay away, that the alien creatures living there were dangerous, and that the plants themselves could be poisonous. But Liam was not afraid. There was something magical about the forest that called to him, and he had always been drawn to it. His small heart beat faster as he approached the tall, twisted trees, their leaves shimmering with colors he had never seen before. The air smelled different here, fresher and alive, filled with the scent of flowers that seemed to glow faintly even in the shadow of the trees. He stepped cautiously under the first trees, looking around with wide eyes. Strange plants with long, curling leaves waved gently as if welcoming him. Small creatures with translucent wings flitted through the air, leaving tiny trails of light behind them. Liam reached out his hand, and one of the creatures landed gently on his finger, its tiny body glowing with a soft blue light. He giggled in delight, forgetting all the warnings he had heard. This was no ordinary forest. This was a place of wonder. As he wandered deeper, he heard a soft, musical sound. It was different from anything he had ever heard, a voice, gentle and pure, singing quietly. Liam followed the sound, moving carefully through the underbrush. Soon he came to a small clearing bathed in golden sunlight. And there she was, a small figure crouched near a sparkling stream, her skin a pale lavender, her hair like silver threads floating in the air. Her large eyes, a deep violet, were wide and curious, yet cautious. She was watching a small floating creature, her delicate fingers reaching out to touch it. Liam froze for a moment. He had heard stories of aliens in the forest, but he had never seen one up close. And yet there was no fear in her eyes, only curiosity, just like his own. He stepped forward slowly, careful not to make a sudden movement. "Hi," he said softly. His voice was small, but it carried across the clearing. The girl looked up sharply. Her eyes widened even more, and she jumped back, almost falling over. Liam held up his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, smiling nervously. "I'm just curious." She tilted her head, studying him. After a moment, she nodded slightly, as if deciding he could be trusted. Liam took another step closer. The soft glow of the forest seemed to surround them, making the moment feel almost magical. "My name is Liam," he said. "What's yours?" The girl hesitated, then spoke in a voice that sounded like music. "I am Ayla." She said it slowly, testing the sound, as if it was new to her own ears. Liam smiled. "It's nice to meet you, Ayla." For a moment, the forest was completely still. Even the floating creatures stopped moving, as if watching the beginning of something special. Days passed, and Liam returned to the forest whenever he could. Every time, he and Ayla shared small adventures. He showed her candies from Earth, and she taught him about the strange plants and creatures of the forest. They laughed together as tiny animals danced on their shoulders, and they explored hidden nooks where the sunlight made crystals sparkle on the ground. Even though they were different, they felt a connection that went beyond words. They understood each other in ways that adults could never understand. One afternoon, as they sat by the sparkling stream, Liam looked at Ayla and smiled. "When I grow up, I will come back for you," he said. "I will marry you." The words slipped out of his mouth almost before he realized it. Ayla blinked, her large violet eyes staring at him. She had heard humans talk of marriage, but she had never thought it could happen between a human and a Virelian. And yet there was something in Liam's eyes that made her believe him. Slowly, she nodded. "I will wait," she whispered. The two of them held hands over the stream, a promise made that would echo for years. But their moment of happiness was interrupted. Voices shouted from the edge of the forest. Human settlers had noticed Liam wandering too far. Adults from the colony ran through the trees, calling his name. Liam turned to Ayla, panic in his eyes. "I have to go," he said. Ayla's face fell. She had never seen him scared before. "You promised," she said softly. Liam looked at her, his heart heavy. "I will come back," he said, his voice firm, even as he was pulled away by the adults. "I promise I will come back for you." And with that, he was gone, leaving Ayla standing alone in the glowing forest, watching the boy who had promised her disappear into the distance. Years passed, and the forest changed. Trees grew taller, streams shifted their paths, and new creatures appeared. Ayla grew too, from a small girl into a young Virelian woman. She never forgot the human boy who had promised her marriage. She often told the younger children stories about him, about the human who had dared to enter the forest and speak to her with kindness. In the quiet moments, she would sit by the stream and remember the warmth of his hand, the courage in his eyes, and the promise they had made. Meanwhile, Liam grew up on the colony. He trained as a pilot, exploring distant parts of the planet and learning all he could about survival, navigation, and diplomacy. Yet no matter where he went or what he accomplished, his mind often wandered to Ayla. He remembered her smile, her laughter, and the promise he had made as a boy. It was a promise that shaped his dreams and his actions. He knew that when he grew up, he would return to the forest, no matter the dangers, to keep his word. The colony around him changed as well. Humans expanded their settlements closer to the forest, unaware of the delicate balance that the Virelians maintained. Rumors of alien sightings spread among the settlers, some telling stories of glowing creatures, others of mysterious voices in the trees. Liam listened quietly, knowing that one day he would return and face the truth of what lay beyond the forest. But for now, he trained, prepared, and remembered the promise he had made. One day, as Liam cleaned his small ship in preparation for another exploration, he looked out at the horizon where the forest stretched endlessly. His heart ached with longing. He remembered the small clearing, the sparkling stream, and the shy eyes of the girl who had trusted him. "I will come back," he whispered to himself. The words were no longer just a promise. They were a mission, a purpose that would guide him through every challenge ahead. Far away in the heart of the forest, Ayla looked up at the same sky. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the trees. She felt a strange certainty, as if something was coming, something she had waited for all her life. She didn't know how or when, but she knew the human boy would return. And when he did, she would be ready, for their promise had become a thread that connected two worlds, two species, and two hearts. The forest around her seemed to shimmer as the evening fell. Strange lights flickered among the trees, tiny creatures danced in the air, and the wind whispered secrets through the leaves. Ayla smiled softly, remembering the small hand that had held hers, the promise that had been made in innocence, and the courage she knew it would take to wait. Though years had passed, and though the world outside the forest had grown complicated and dangerous, the bond between them had not weakened. It had grown stronger, rooted in trust, wonder, and the unspoken understanding that some promises are meant to last a lifetime. And so, as night fell and stars began to dot the sky, Liam and Ayla were connected in spirit, though far apart. One was training, learning, and growing. The other was waiting, observing, and believing. Both were guided by a promise, small yet powerful, that would one day bring them together again. The forest whispered softly, as if acknowledging the bond between them, the bond that no distance, no species difference, and no time could break. It was a promise of hope, courage, and love, the kind of promise that changes the world, one heart at a time. The stars shone brighter as night deepened, casting silver light over the forest and the colony. Liam lay in his small bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking of Ayla and the adventures they shared. Ayla looked up through the canopy, her violet eyes reflecting the same stars. Somewhere across the distance and years, a promise waited to be fulfilled. And when the time came, both would step forward, brave and ready, to honor the words spoken so long ago. "I will come back for you." Years had passed since Liam had left the forest. The boy who once ran through the glowing trees had grown into a young man of 17. His dark hair now fell just above his shoulders, and his once small frame had filled out with strength and agility. Liam had trained hard, learning to pilot ships, navigate treacherous terrain, and solve problems quickly. The colony adults often praised his skills, calling him brave and clever, though Liam never cared much for their words. His mind always wandered back to the forest, to the girl who had waited for him, to the promise he had made so long ago. Every morning, as the sun rose over the colony, Liam felt the pull of the forest in his chest. He would walk along the dirt paths, watching the distant line of trees where the sunlight met the shadow of the forest. He remembered Ayla's violet eyes, her delicate fingers brushing against the floating creatures, and the way she had smiled at him when he had promised to come back. That promise had grown into a guiding star in his life, a purpose that had shaped every decision he had made. Life on the colony was bustling, and yet Liam often felt out of place. He was trained as a pilot, and many of his friends were now traveling to distant parts of the planet or even farther to neighboring worlds. But Liam had no desire for fame or exploration beyond his home. His goal was clear. One day he would return to the forest and he would find Ayla. He would honor the promise he had made as a boy, no matter the challenges that awaited him. The colony itself had changed over the years. Human settlements had expanded closer to the forest, their buildings rising taller, their machines humming louder. Trade with other colonies had increased, and more people were drawn to the edge of the alien territory, curious about the glowing forests and the stories that surrounded them. Rumors of mysterious creatures and strange lights persisted, and some settlers whispered about sightings of an alien girl, her skin pale like the moon, wandering near the edge of the forest. Many dismissed these stories as tales for children, but Liam listened closely. He knew they were true. One afternoon, while repairing a small exploration ship in the colony hangar, Liam's mind wandered as usual. His fingers moved automatically over the tools, adjusting panels and checking systems, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He imagined the forest as it had been when he was 8, the sparkling stream, the floating creatures, the shimmering trees. Most vividly, he remembered Ayla, her violet eyes wide with curiosity, her small hand resting in his. "I will come back for you," he whispered to himself, echoing the words he had spoken all those years ago. The hum of the colony around him seemed to fade as his determination grew. Liam knew that returning to the forest would not be simple. Humans were no longer entirely welcome there. The Virelians, proud and cautious, had seen how settlements expanded, how humans sometimes disturbed their delicate balance. Many adults had warned him. The forest was not a playground for grown men, and alien creatures could be unpredictable and dangerous. Liam did not dismiss these warnings, but he did not let them deter him. His heart was set. The promise mattered more than fear, more than danger, more than doubt. At night, Liam would sit on the edge of the colony, looking at the forest silhouetted against the starlit sky. He traced paths with his finger in the dirt, imagining routes he might take, obstacles he would face, and ways to overcome them. He read books about alien species, studied the behavior of the Virelians from old reports, and trained his mind to think like both a human and a friend of the forest. Every lesson he learned, every skill he developed, was a preparation for the day he would return. Despite his focus, Liam could not escape the loneliness that had grown over the years. Most of his friends had moved on, their lives filled with excitement and exploration, yet he remained tethered to a promise from his childhood. At times, he questioned himself. Could he really return? Would Ayla even remember him? Would the Virelians accept him after so many years? The questions lingered, but they never weakened his resolve. They only made him plan more carefully, study more thoroughly, and prepare more diligently. One evening, a senior officer approached Liam while he was reviewing maps in the colony's communication center. "Liam, we've received reports of disturbances near the forest," the officer said, his voice serious. "Machines malfunctioning, strange lights, unverified alien sightings. Some settlers are frightened. You should be careful." Liam nodded, his mind racing. "I know," he replied. "I've been preparing for this. I need to see it for myself." The officer's brow furrowed. "Be careful. The forest is not forgiving, especially for humans." Liam's gaze drifted toward the horizon, toward the shadowed line of trees. "I will be," he said quietly but firmly. Days turned into weeks, and Liam's preparation became meticulous. He gathered supplies, checking every system on his small ship, practicing maneuvers and mapping potential routes into the forest. He studied the Virelians' customs, learning their rituals, their forms of communication, their ways of signaling trust and danger. He knew that one wrong move could destroy any chance of reconnecting with Ayla or earning the trust of her people. Every decision mattered. Every action had weight. During this time, Liam's dreams often returned to the forest. He saw Ayla walking beside the sparkling stream, teaching him about the glowing plants and tiny floating creatures. He remembered her laugh, soft and musical, and the way her eyes reflected wonder and curiosity. In his dreams, he could hear her voice, whispering encouragement, reminding him of the promise they had made together. Each night, he woke more determined, his resolve strengthened by the memory of her trust. Finally, the day came when Liam was ready. His ship was stocked with essentials: food, water, medical supplies, navigation tools, and small gifts he had prepared for Ayla, candies from Earth, a few trinkets, and a small notebook to record their adventures. He had trained himself to navigate by both technology and instinct, to anticipate danger, and to move silently if necessary. But most importantly, he had trained his heart to remain steadfast. The promise he had made as a boy was no longer a childish fancy. It was a mission, a purpose that defined who he had become. As the sun rose, painting the colony in shades of gold and pink, Liam approached his ship. Settlers were busy with their own routines, unaware of the journey he was about to undertake. He climbed into the cockpit, checking systems one last time, and took a deep breath. The forest waited beyond the horizon, mysterious, alive, and uncertain. But he was ready. He activated the engines and with a steady hand lifted off from the landing pad. The colony shrank behind him, and the forest grew larger in the viewport, the line of trees glowing faintly in the morning light. The journey was tense. Liam maneuvered carefully to avoid human patrols and areas that could draw attention. He kept a low altitude over hills and valleys, using his knowledge of the terrain to stay undetected. The forest seemed alive, almost as if it were watching him, its trees swaying gently in rhythm with the wind. Strange lights flickered below, and occasional creatures flitted past his viewports. Liam's heart pounded, but he remained calm. He reminded himself of the promise, of the trust Ayla had placed in him, and of the determination that had carried him through the years. Hours passed as he approached the heart of the forest. Liam navigated rivers, avoided dense clusters of glowing trees, and followed paths he had memorized from his studies. Every mile brought him closer to Ayla, closer to fulfilling the promise that had guided his life. Finally, he reached a clearing. From the cockpit, he could see the sparkling stream, the gentle rise of hills, and the faint shimmer of plants swaying in the breeze. His heart leapt. This was the place where it all had begun. He landed his small craft carefully on a flat patch of ground near the stream. The engines hummed softly as he powered them down, and for a moment there was silence. The forest stretched endlessly around him, alive with the glow of flora and fauna. Liam stepped out of the ship, his boots sinking slightly into the soft earth. He looked around, searching for the familiar figure he had waited for so long. His eyes scanned every tree, every bush, every flicker of light. And then he saw her. Ayla stood at the edge of the stream, her silver hair catching the sunlight, her violet eyes wide with wonder and recognition. She was older now, taller, graceful, and more confident than the shy girl he remembered. And yet when she looked at him, there was no doubt, no hesitation, only the spark of memory, the recognition of a promise kept. Liam's heart swelled. He took careful steps toward her, and she mirrored his movements, their eyes locked across the clearing. "I came back," Liam said softly, his voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside him. Ayla's lips curved into a gentle smile, and for the first time in years, Liam felt the weight of the promise lift from his shoulders. It was fulfilled, even if only in the first steps of a longer journey. But the forest was not entirely safe. Small movements in the shadows reminded Liam that the Virelians watched closely and that their trust had to be earned. Ayla's people had seen humans before, some friendly, some not. Liam understood the delicate balance. This reunion, though joyful, was just the beginning. The promise had brought him back, but respect, courage, and understanding would determine what came next. As Liam and Ayla approached each other, the forest seemed to welcome them. Tiny creatures danced in the air, leaves shimmered with light, and the stream sparkled as if celebrating their reunion. Liam held out his hand, and Ayla placed hers in his. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The years, the separation, the danger, all of it faded in the glow of that single touch. "I remembered," Liam said simply. Ayla nodded. "I waited," she replied. And in that moment, words were unnecessary. They understood each other perfectly, two hearts connected by a promise, two worlds bridged by trust and courage. Liam knew the journey ahead would not be simple. There would be trials, challenges, and tests of his intentions, but he had returned, and that was the first and most important step. The promise had been kept, and now the next chapter awaited, one that would test not just his skill, but his heart. The forest whispered around them, alive with possibility. Liam and Ayla stood together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever challenges came next. The boy who had promised and the girl who had waited were together again, and the bond between them shone brighter than the glow of the alien trees. The forest was alive with a soft, glowing light as Liam and Ayla walked together through the trees. Every step brought Liam deeper into a world that had been a mystery to him for so many years, yet now felt strangely familiar. The leaves shimmered above them, and small creatures darted in and out of the underbrush, curious but cautious. Liam's heart raced, not from fear, but from the excitement of finally being here, finally seeing Ayla again. Ayla led him carefully through the forest. She moved with grace, her bare feet barely touching the soft moss that covered the ground. Her silver hair glinted in the light, and her violet eyes never left Liam. "You came back," she said softly, almost as if speaking to herself. Liam nodded. "I promised," he replied, his voice steady. "I always planned to keep that promise." Ayla paused and looked around, her eyes scanning the trees as if expecting someone or something to appear. "The council will want to see you," she said finally. Liam frowned slightly. "Council?" he asked. Ayla nodded. "The elders of the Virelians, they must approve of you being here. Not every human is welcome, even if they come with good intentions." He had read about Virelian culture, their careful ways, their traditions. The forest was not just home to strange creatures, it was home to a proud and intelligent people. They would not accept him lightly, no matter the promise he had made as a child. He felt a flutter of nervousness but pushed it aside. He had prepared for this. He had trained for this. All that mattered was his honesty, his courage, and his heart. Ayla led him to the edge of a small hill overlooking a grand grove, where several tall, elegant Virelians had gathered. Their skin was pale like hers, their eyes wide and reflective, and their movements deliberate and precise. They watched Liam as he approached, their expressions a mixture of curiosity, suspicion, and caution. He stopped a few steps from them and bowed slightly. "I am Liam," he said. "I have returned to honor a promise I made long ago." He has returned to keep that promise. The council remained silent, their eyes piercing, as if examining his very soul. Liam felt the weight of their gaze but stood tall. He had come this far and he would not falter now. Finally, one of the elders, an older Virelian with hair like flowing silver and eyes deep and wise, stepped forward. "A promise is not enough," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Intentions must be proven, actions must show respect, courage, and understanding." Liam nodded. "I understand," he replied. "I am ready to prove myself in any way you require." Ayla smiled gently at him, pride and trust shining in her eyes. Liam felt a surge of determination. The elder gestured to a path leading deeper into the forest. "Then you must face the trials," she said. "3 trials, each testing what you claim to hold in your heart. Only then will you earn the right to be trusted here." Liam glanced at Ayla. She gave a small nod of encouragement. "I will be with you," she whispered. Liam squeezed her hand briefly. "I will do my best," he said, and with that they began their journey into the unknown. The first trial was called the Forest Trial. Liam's task was to navigate a dangerous area without harming any creature or plant. The path was filled with glowing vines, moving branches, and tiny animals that scurried and flew in unpredictable patterns. One wrong step could destroy delicate ecosystems or anger the Virelians watching from the shadows. Liam moved carefully, observing the way the ground shifted, the light changed, and the creatures reacted. He relied on his instincts, his knowledge of the terrain, and his respect for life to guide him. At one point, a small creature with transparent wings became trapped in a glowing vine. Liam paused, gently untangling it without harming the vine or the creature. The Virelians watching nodded in approval, though they remained silent. Liam felt a sense of pride but stayed focused. The forest was beautiful, but it was alive, and it required both skill and patience to move through safely. Hours passed as he carefully navigated the dense terrain, and finally he reached the edge of the trial area. The first test was complete. The second trial, the cultural trial, was more subtle but equally challenging. Liam had to demonstrate understanding of Virelian customs through a series of puzzles and rituals. He was presented with symbols representing aspects of their history, nature, and values, and he had to arrange them in the correct order to unlock the next step. He worked carefully, recalling everything he had studied about their culture, observing the subtle reactions of Ayla and the elders, and using his own logic to connect patterns and meanings. At one point, Liam hesitated. One symbol seemed to have multiple interpretations, and he worried about choosing incorrectly. Ayla placed her hand on his shoulder. "Trust what you know and trust your heart," she whispered. Liam took a deep breath, made his choice, and waited. The elders examined the arrangement, then nodded in approval. Slowly, the symbols shifted and glowed, revealing a hidden path leading to the final trial. Liam exhaled in relief, realizing that respect for culture and understanding went hand in hand with patience and observation. The third trial was the selfless trial, and it proved the most difficult. A sudden storm swept through the forest, fierce and unpredictable. Branches broke, creatures scattered, and the sparkling stream swelled with water. Liam was faced with a choice: retreat to safety or help the Virelian villagers at risk. Without hesitation, he ran toward those in danger, using his training and quick thinking to save a young Virelian from being swept away by the rising waters. He guided others to safe spots, constructed temporary shelters using fallen branches, and ensured that every creature and villager he could reach was protected. Ayla followed closely, her eyes wide with concern and admiration. The elders observed silently, their expressions unreadable. Liam's heart raced, muscles strained, and rain soaked him to the bone, but he never faltered. He understood that courage was not just about bravery, it was about protecting others even when personal safety was at risk. Hours passed, and finally the storm subsided. The forest settled into calm, and the villagers and creatures were safe. Liam stood, exhausted but triumphant, as Ayla ran to his side. "You did it," she said, her voice full of wonder. "You proved yourself." Liam smiled, his chest heaving with relief and pride. The elders stepped forward, their expressions softening. "You have shown respect, courage, and understanding," the elder who had spoken before said. "You have earned the right to be trusted." Liam bowed, grateful for their acceptance. It was not just a personal victory. It was a sign that humans and Violians could find common ground, that promises and actions could bridge worlds. The reunion between Liam and Ayla became a quiet celebration. Creatures of the forest flitted around them, their lights shimmering in approval. The villagers, once wary of the human, now observed him with respect. Liam felt a profound sense of connection, not just with Ayla, but with the entire forest and its people. The trials had tested him, but they had also taught him lessons that went beyond the promise he had made as a boy. Trust, respect, courage, and understanding were not just ideals, they were actions that shaped reality. As the evening approached, the forest glowed in soft light, reflecting off the stream and the shimmering leaves. Liam and Ayla walked together, hands intertwined, their faces lit with the soft glow. "I never doubted you," Ayla said quietly. Liam smiled. "I never doubted either," he replied. "The promise was my guide. It brought me back to you, and it taught me how to be worthy of this moment." The forest itself seemed to acknowledge this, its light shimmering brighter, creatures moving with a sense of harmony, and the air filled with a gentle hum, almost like a song of approval. That night, Liam camped near the stream with Ayla by his side. They spoke quietly, sharing stories of the years apart, recounting adventures and experiences. Liam told her about life in the colony, the humans he had met, and the skills he had learned. Ayla shared tales of the forest, the creatures she had encountered, and the lessons she had learned in patience, observation, and wisdom. Each story strengthened their connection, weaving their lives together once more. As they settled under a canopy of glowing leaves, Liam looked at Ayla and felt a warmth that went beyond friendship. The trials had been difficult, yes, but they had also proven that their bond was stronger than any obstacle. They had overcome separation, distrust, and danger, and now stood ready to face whatever future lay ahead. The forest whispered softly around them, a gentle lullaby that promised hope, courage, and continued adventure. Liam closed his eyes for a moment, thinking of the years he had spent preparing for this return. Every lesson, every step, every moment of waiting had led to this day. He opened his eyes and looked at Ayla. "This is just the beginning," he said softly. Ayla smiled, her violet eyes reflecting the shimmering forest. "I know," she replied, "but I am ready." And as the night deepened and stars twinkled above, Liam and Ayla understood that their journey had only begun. The trials had tested them, but the real adventure, one that would challenge their hearts, their courage, and their unity, lay ahead. And they were ready to face it together. The morning sun filtered through the forest canopy, casting warm patches of light across the mossy ground. Liam woke to the soft hum of the forest, the gentle rustle of leaves, and the faint musical chirping of the floating creatures. Ayla was already awake, sitting beside the stream, her violet eyes reflecting the shimmering water. She looked calm, poised, and yet there was a glint of excitement in her gaze. Liam stretched and smiled, feeling a sense of belonging that had been absent for so many years. Today was not just another day in the forest. It was the beginning of the trials that would test everything he had learned, every skill he had developed, and every ounce of courage he possessed. The elder who had spoken to him during the first trials appeared silently among the trees. Her presence was quiet but commanding, and Liam immediately felt the weight of her gaze. "The trials were only the first step," she said. "To honor your promise fully, you must now face challenges that test your heart, your wisdom, and your ability to protect more than yourself. Only then will the council grant you the right to stand beside Ayla without question." Liam nodded. "I understand," he replied. The elder's expression softened slightly. "You have done well so far, but the next tests will show not just what you can do, but who you are." He had faced challenges before, storms, dangerous terrain, cultural puzzles, but this felt different. These trials were about more than skill or intelligence. They were about trust, empathy, and selflessness. He had trained his body, his mind, and his heart, but the next steps would demand all three simultaneously. Their first challenge took them deeper into the heart of the forest, where sunlight barely touched the ground. The trees were tall and ancient, their thick roots creating natural obstacles. Liam had to navigate carefully, paying attention not only to his footing but also to the subtle signs of life around him. Small animals scurried beneath the leaves, glowing plants leaned gently in the wind, and tiny insects hummed in harmony. One wrong move could damage the delicate ecosystem, and Liam knew that respect for this world was as important as any trial of courage. As they moved, they encountered a fallen tree blocking their path. Liam examined it carefully. It was too wide to jump over and too fragile to climb directly. He looked around and noticed a series of vines and roots that could be used as natural bridges. Carefully, he shifted his weight, testing each step, moving slowly but steadily. Ayla followed, mimicking his careful movements. The elder observed silently from a distance, nodding subtly at Liam's careful approach. It was not only a test of agility, but of patience, observation, and respect for the forest. Hours passed as they made their way through the dense underbrush. They encountered creatures that had never been seen in the forest before, tiny beings that glowed like lanterns, hovering insects that traced glowing trails in the air, and plants that reacted to their presence with subtle movements. Liam's senses were alert. He adjusted his pace, learning how to move without disturbing the delicate balance of life around him. At one point, a small creature became trapped under a fallen branch. Liam paused, gently lifting it free without harming the plant or the creature. Ayla's eyes widened in admiration, and the elder nodded quietly. Their next challenge was less physical and more mental. They arrived at a circle of ancient stones, each carved with symbols that glowed faintly. The elder explained that they were part of a centuries-old puzzle, a test of understanding, observation, and wisdom. Liam studied the symbols carefully, recalling everything he had learned about Vireland culture, their respect for nature, their connection to the elements, and their intricate history. Each symbol seemed to hold multiple meanings, and the arrangement required careful thought. Ayla crouched beside him, pointing to a sequence of symbols that represented harmony between the forest, the creatures, and the Virelands. "I think it starts here," she said softly. Liam nodded, combining her insight with his own observations. Step by step, they arranged the symbols, testing each combination until the correct order revealed itself. The stones glowed brighter and a hidden path opened beyond the circle. Liam smiled, feeling a sense of triumph. This was not just a puzzle, it was a test of connection to the forest, to Ayla, and to the culture he sought to honor. The final challenge was the most demanding. A sudden storm swept through the forest, fierce and unpredictable. Rain fell in sheets, turning the mossy ground slippery and treacherous. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the twisting branches and casting eerie shadows. Liam's heart raced, but he focused on the task ahead. The storm had caused small landslides, fallen trees, and dangerous currents in the streams. Villagers and creatures alike were in danger, and Liam knew that he could not rely on luck alone. He had to act. Ayla stayed close, guiding him toward those in need. A family of small creatures had been trapped near a swollen stream, and Liam carefully lifted each one to safety. He constructed temporary shelters from branches and leaves, redirecting the water away from the villagers' homes. Every step required judgment, strength, and quick thinking. At one point, a branch threatened to fall onto a small group of young Virelands. Liam jumped, pushing them out of the way just in time. His body ached, his clothes were soaked, and his heart pounded, but he never faltered. The storm raged for hours, testing his limits. Yet through every challenge, Liam remained calm, focused, and determined. He understood that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. When the storm finally subsided, the forest seemed to sigh in relief. Villagers and creatures were safe, and the damage had been minimized. Liam stood, exhausted but proud, as Ayla approached him with a bright smile. "You did it," she said, her voice full of admiration. Liam smiled back, feeling a warmth that went beyond physical relief. "We did it," he corrected gently, acknowledging her guidance and support. Together they had faced the storm, combining human skill with Vireland intuition and knowledge. The elders watched silently from the shadows, their expressions softening. "You have proven yourself beyond doubt," the elder who had guided them spoke finally. "Respect, courage, and understanding, these are the pillars of trust. You have shown them in action, not just words. The council recognizes your dedication and the sincerity of your heart." Liam bowed, feeling a mixture of relief, pride, and humility. He had come back to honor a promise, and now he had proven that he was worthy of the trust he sought. The villagers and creatures of the forest gathered around them, their eyes wide with curiosity and respect. Liam looked at Ayla and she smiled, her hand slipping into his. "You've earned this," she said softly. Liam squeezed her hand gently. "I couldn't have done it without you," he replied. Their bond had grown stronger through the trials, deepened by shared challenges and mutual understanding. As evening approached, the forest settled into a calm, glowing serenity. Liam and Ayla walked along the sparkling stream, talking quietly about the events of the day. They shared their thoughts, feelings, and reflections, deepening their connection. Liam spoke of his training, his preparation, and the anticipation that had guided him back to the forest. Ayla spoke of the years she had waited, the stories she had told, and the lessons she had learned in patience and trust. Each word strengthened the bond between them, weaving their lives together with shared purpose and respect. The council observed from a distance, satisfied with what they had seen. Liam's actions had demonstrated more than skill or bravery. They had shown integrity, empathy, and a commitment to protecting others. The promise he had made as a child had been more than words. It had been a guide that shaped his character, tested his heart, and ultimately earned the respect of an entire culture. That night, Liam and Ayla camped near the stream under a canopy of glowing leaves. The stars above shone brightly, reflecting in the water and adding a sense of magic to the moment. They spoke quietly, sharing hopes for the future and dreams for the life they hoped to build together. The trials had been difficult, yes, but they had proven not only Liam's worthiness but the strength of the connection between human and Virelian. "I never thought I would see you again," Ayla said softly, looking up at the glowing canopy. Liam smiled. "I never doubted that I would," he replied. "The promise guided me even when I was far away." "It brought me back to you?" Ayla's eyes shimmered with emotion. "And you honored it," she said, "not just with words but with your actions." He had returned, he had proven himself, and he had rekindled a bond that had never truly been broken. The trials were complete, but he knew that the journey was far from over. Greater challenges awaited, but he now understood that with courage, respect, and unity, even the most difficult obstacles could be overcome. As they lay beneath the glowing canopy, Liam and Ayla watched the stars reflect on the sparkling stream. The promise that had guided them both had grown into something larger than themselves. It was not just a promise between two individuals. It was a symbol of trust, understanding, and hope between two worlds. And as the night deepened, the forest seemed to embrace them, whispering softly of adventures yet to come, of bonds yet to strengthen, and of the courage it takes to honor a promise that transcends time, distance, and species. The sun rose slowly over the forest, casting golden light across the shimmering leaves. Liam and Ayla stood together at the edge of the sparkling stream, the trials of the past days behind them. The Virelian Council had accepted Liam, recognizing his courage, respect, and understanding. And yet, the forest still held tension. Human settlers had begun to approach the edges of Virelian territory, unaware of the fragile balance that existed here. Liam knew that their reunion, as joyful as it was, would face its greatest test soon. Ayla turned to him, her violet eyes shining with trust and warmth. "We've passed the trials," she said softly, "but there is more to do. Your world and mine must learn to live together." Liam nodded. "I know," he replied, "and I am ready. I promised you, and I will keep that promise, no matter what comes." Her hand slipped into his, and together they walked toward the heart of the forest, where the elders had called a gathering to discuss the next steps. As they approached the grand grove, they saw humans from the colony arriving at the forest edge. Their ships were smaller than Liam's, but their presence was enough to alarm the Virelians. Creatures scattered, glowing plants trembled, and whispers of concern passed through the council. Liam stepped forward, raising a hand in greeting. "They come in peace," he said firmly. "I will ensure they do no harm." The elders watched him carefully, weighing their words, while Ayla stood by his side, her presence a quiet affirmation of trust. The humans hesitated, unsure how to approach the alien forest and the beings within it. Liam stepped closer, speaking clearly and calmly. "We wish to observe and learn, not to interfere," he said. "I know the mistakes humans can make, but I also know the value of respect and patience. Allow me to guide you." Ayla translated his words for the council, and slowly the humans nodded, taking cautious steps forward under Liam's supervision. The tension was palpable, but Liam remained focused. He guided the humans along safe paths, showing them the beauty of the forest without disturbing its balance. They marveled at floating creatures, glowing plants, and streams that shimmered like liquid silver. For the first time, many of them realized that this world was not something to conquer, but something to understand and protect. The Violians watched silently, their initial suspicions slowly giving way to cautious trust. Hours passed, and the humans began to learn from Liam and the Violians. He demonstrated simple practices that minimized disruption, showed how to observe without touching, and explained the delicate relationships between creatures and plants. Ayla stayed close, translating and guiding interactions with her people. The elders nodded at Liam's teaching, impressed not only by his skill but also by his ability to inspire cooperation. Despite the calm, danger was never far. A sudden tremor shook the forest, sending branches crashing to the ground and small creatures scattering. Liam's instincts kicked in immediately. He guided humans and Violians alike to safe spots, shielding the vulnerable and coordinating efforts to stabilize the area. The humans were surprised by his decisiveness and courage, while the Violians saw that this human was not only skilled but trustworthy. Liam's heart pounded, but he remained calm, knowing that leadership was not about authority. It was about protection, respect, and action. When the tremor subsided, Liam and Ayla worked together to help the Violian villagers repair minor damage. Liam showed humans how to assist without causing harm, emphasizing care over speed. Small bridges were rebuilt, shelters reinforced, and creatures returned to safe areas. The storm had tested more than just the forest. It had tested cooperation between species, and under Liam's guidance it had succeeded. As evening approached, the forest glowed softly, bathed in golden and violet light. Liam and Ayla walked together along a winding path, reflecting on the day. "You handled everything so well," Ayla said, her voice gentle. "The humans listened to you and the Violians respected you. You've done more than anyone could have hoped for." Liam shook his head slightly. "I couldn't have done it without you. Your guidance, your trust, it made all the difference. And our promise brought me here. It guided me through everything. You risked yourself, you cared for others, and you respected this forest. That is what earned their trust." Liam nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. The years of waiting, training, and preparation had led to this moment. He had kept the promise, and in doing so, he had bridged two worlds. That night, the council gathered for a ceremony in the Grand Grove. The elders had prepared a celebration of trust and unity, blending human and Violian customs. Glowing lanterns floated in the air, illuminating the faces of villagers, creatures, and humans alike. Liam and Ayla stood together at the center, hand in hand, surrounded by those who had watched them prove themselves. The elder who had guided them through the trials spoke solemnly, her voice carrying through the grove. "You have returned to honor a promise," she said. "You have faced trials of courage, wisdom, and selflessness. You have shown respect for life, for culture, and for one another. This is not only a promise fulfilled, but a bridge between two worlds. Let this moment mark the beginning of understanding, cooperation, and unity." The promise had been more than words. It had been a guiding light, shaping his actions and his heart. The ceremony continued with small, joyful rituals. Ayla placed a glowing flower in Liam's hand, symbolizing trust and connection. Liam, in turn, presented her with a small charm from Earth, a reminder of his world and the journey he had taken to return. Together, they exchanged gestures that combined their cultures, creating something new, something meaningful, and something that would endure. Humans and Violians observed, learning from the example of these two young beings. Many were inspired, realizing that cooperation and respect could create harmony rather than conflict. Liam felt a sense of hope growing in his chest. This was more than a personal reunion. It was a step toward a shared future where understanding and trust could overcome fear and ignorance. As the stars began to shine overhead, Liam and Ayla walked along the stream, reflecting on all that had happened. "We've faced so much," Liam said softly, "yet we're just beginning. There will be challenges ahead, more than we can imagine." Ayla nodded. "But we will face them together," she said, her hand in his. "And we will continue to honor the promise." It had shown that humanity, with respect, empathy, and perseverance, could earn the trust of worlds very different from their own. Days passed, and the humans began to leave the immediate edge of the forest, guided by Liam and Ayla to ensure no harm came to the ecosystem. The Violians watched, now more trusting, and some even offered guidance to the humans. A sense of harmony settled over the area, a delicate but powerful bond between two cultures. Liam felt pride not in himself alone, but in what they had achieved together, a testament to promises kept, trust earned and courage demonstrated. The forest seemed to embrace them as Liam and Ayla returned to the clearing where they had first reunited. The sparkling stream flowed calmly, the floating creatures danced gently in the air, and the glowing plants swayed softly. Liam knelt briefly to touch the water, feeling a connection not just to the forest, but to the promise, the journey, and the bond that had brought him back here. Ayla knelt beside him, her hand resting lightly on his. "This is home now," she said softly. "Not just for me or for you, but for both our worlds. We've shown that humans and Violians can live together in harmony." Liam nodded, looking around at the glowing trees and shimmering water. "And it all started with a simple promise," he said. "A promise made long ago, kept through years of waiting, courage, and hope. And now, together, they look toward a future filled with possibility, cooperation, and shared adventures. The promise had been fulfilled, but it had also grown into something greater, a legacy of courage, understanding, and unity that would guide future generations." Liam and Ayla understood that the forest, their bond, and their actions would be remembered, not as a story of two individuals alone, but as the beginning of a bridge between worlds. With hands intertwined, hearts full of hope, and eyes looking toward the future, Liam and Ayla knew that their journey was just beginning. They had kept their promise, yes, but they had also created something enduring, something that would outlast them both, a testament to what humanity could achieve when it combined courage, empathy, and determination. And as the gentle glow of the forest surrounded them, they felt a quiet certainty that together, they could face any challenge, honor any promise, and create a future where two worlds could coexist in peace. The forest whispered softly, the stars shone brightly, and the promise, once a small childhood vow, had become a beacon of hope for both humans and Violians alike.